Welcome back. All right, so today we're going to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs to round out my look at teams that lost in the first round. So I saved Toronto for last. And after this is done, then I can start getting ready to talk about teams that lost in the second round. And it's interesting because looking at the fact that Toronto takes Tampa to 7 games and then Florida got swept, it is easy to say, well, that shows that Toronto's close. The thing is, it doesn't necessarily mean that because second round Tampa looked different than first round Tampa. And it doesn't roll over from one year to the next. We've seen where teams will put up a really good fight in the first round, and then the following season, maybe they miss the playoffs. They might not be as, and that's the thing, right? So looking for that positive right now for Toronto could be difficult, and I get that. But the regular season was great, and then they were 11-2-2 in April going down the stretch. So there was no sign of impending doom there. And then, they draw Tampa in the first round. I've seen comments about, well, if they'd played Boston or played Pittsburgh, I don't know. This team, there's just that something that's keeping them from getting, and whatever you want to call it, there's just something that's preventing that playoff success. And so it's a matter of Kyle Dubas needing to figure out what that is. It doesn't sound like we're going to see any changes behind the bench. No change with GM. And really, it doesn't sound like there's going to be like big moves being made because Brendan Shanahan said, "I'm not going to make moves just for the sake of making moves," which nobody is stating that should be a thing. But making moves to try to get your team over the top should absolutely be job number one for both Shanahan and for Dubas. So this year's scoring leaders in the playoffs, Matthews had a good playoff, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. But again, you can score all you want, but if in that game 7 we don't see an end-to-end rush by Matthews and a goal going in the net, again, that's what people are going to remember is that game 7. Now, again, against Vasilevsky, that's just filthy. He is absolutely ridiculous in elimination games, but still, if Toronto's going to be a champion, they're going to have to figure out how to get over that hump. Marner, 2 goals and 6 assists for him. I thought he had a decent first round as well. Nylander, 3 goals, 4 assists for him. Reilly, 3 goals, 3 assists. And Tavares, 3 goals and 3 assists for Tavares. Their playoff goaltending, Jack Campbell, 3-4 with an .897 save percentage. And it is a conversation worth being had. Is Jack Campbell a goaltender that can get you to a Stanley Cup? I like Jack Campbell. I think most people do. The soup chant is a lot of fun. But if Toronto's going to change this and get themselves into that next round, is he the goalie to do that? And if he is, great. So make sure he's got a good defense in front of him. And if he isn't, this offseason might be the best time to figure that out because there's not much time before the contracts of guys like Marner and Matthews come up. And then you have a whole other discussion about who wants to stay and who doesn't. And the window for a Stanley Cup doesn't stay open for that long. For Toronto, it's kind of important that they make that next step because the other thing too is that for players who, regardless of what they're being paid, players do like the idea of winning a Stanley Cup. So when Matthews, Marner, and others are up, if they feel like Toronto's going in the wrong direction, they could very well end up wanting to go somewhere else. They could stay, yes, they could stay, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. The regular season scoring leaders: Matthews, 60 goals. 46 assists, 106 points. Absolutely ridiculous numbers, considering he didn't play every game. Neither did Marner. 35 goals, 62 assists, 97 points. I didn't really agree with the idea of holding him out when he could have got to 100 points. And I think the fact they got bounced in the first round again, I don't mind resting guys down the stretch, but there's times where I doubt it. It didn't seem like he had any reason to be out other than they didn't want him to get hurt before the playoffs either. Nylander, 34 goals, 46 assists for 80 points. Very good year for Nylander, quietly. Tavares, 27 goals, 49 assists, 76 points. And I expect to hear Tavares' name attached to any and all trade speculation around Toronto because you need cap space. And his contract is expensive. And then you got Morgan Reilly. 10 goals, 58 assists, 68 points. And Reilly at times is overrated. I do think, and I've said this in recent seasons as well, I think he's almost to the point where maybe he's a little bit underrated. Reilly's been excellent. And then the regular season goaltending is the Jack Campbell show. 31, 9 and 6 with a 914 save percentage. Both Mrazek and Shalgren, their save percentages tell you there were struggles there, although their win-loss record tells you that Toronto bailed them out. Mrazek's 12 and 6 with an 888 save percentage. Shalgren 8-4 and 1 with an 888 save percentage. It's a big cap difference though between the two. So personally, if I'm trying to choose between the two, I'd probably go with Shalgren just for cap hit alone. But I do think that backup goaltender is a spot that they're going to be trying to work out this summer. Maybe they do keep Mrazek. Maybe they move him. We'll find out soon. So again, they lose against Tampa Bay in 7. But their upcoming UFA list is interesting. Ilya Mikheyev. There's some discussion about how Toronto can't afford to keep him. How much is he going to cost? For how long? All that fun stuff. Spezza, he's been non-committal about his future at this point, although it sounds like he wants to stay in Toronto, should he continue to play. Blackwell, I thought was okay, but it looks like that's probably a pure rental for them. Lyubushkin, I thought fit in pretty well, but how much is he going to want to stick around? And Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell's the ultimate question for these guys when it comes to your UFAs. And they only have $7 million in cap space, according to Cap Friendly, for next season. $7 million won't bring back Mikheyev, Lyubushkin, and Campbell. So it is a bit of a crunch for Toronto unless they make another move. There's been speculation about whether or not maybe they look at moving Muzzin because of his price tag. So it is always an interesting time where you see a team trying to trade themselves out from under contracts that they signed and trying to stay in contention. And sometimes that can end up making it look like that GM signed contracts that were a little rich or a little bit long, and so it can be smart for the general manager to make those moves, but it can also expose whether or not their contract signings have worked out. So it can kind of go both ways with that. But again, we've got that vote of support from Brendan Shanahan. Dubas's job isn't in any danger. And why should it be? The team had 115 points this year. Restricted free agents, Kasha, I think they'll try to keep him around, but again, how much money do they have for that? Engvall, I think they need to keep Engvall. Sandin and Liljegren. Liljegren's name's been in a lot of trade rumors. Sandin, I think, needs to be promoted to a more top 4 role more consistently. Give him a chance. I've been saying that for a couple years now. Just give Sandin a chance, and I think he'll surprise them in a positive manner. But yeah, so neither of these players are going to get a huge raise, but it's all going to eat into that $7 million in cap space. So we'll see what Toronto can do. Now, when we look at their record over the last decade in the playoffs, 2013 they lose in the first round against Boston in 7. Now, that's a lockout shortened season, and there was some discussion about whether or not Toronto would have finished in the playoffs if it had been a full 82-game season. And then, not helping to do anything other than just make all those waters murkier, they missed the playoffs in 2014, 2015, and 2016. And as 2016, where a plan emerged, the Shannon plan. And they win the draft lottery after finishing last overall, and the following season, they're in the playoffs, seemingly against all odds. They lost in the first round that year against Washington in 6, but 2017, it looked like this team was on their way up. We were going to see a lot of fun things from Toronto, and certainly the regular season results have been very positive. But the postseason, 2018, they lose against Boston, Game 7. 2019, they lose against Boston, Game 7. 2020, in a qualifying round best of 5, they lost in Game 5 against Columbus. 2021, they lost against Montreal in Game 7 after having a 3-1 series lead. And then this year, after having a 3-2 series lead on Tampa, they lose in Game 7. So I think the key thing for them is avoid Game 7s. Steven Stamkos, for years, there's been discussions about how his stats aren't very good in Game 7s. So when Tampa Bay wins a series in 6, 5, or 4, I always say, well, that's a good way for Stamkos to avoid Game 7. It works. Who cares about Game 7 if you win in Game 6? And that's the thing that I think eventually Toronto's going to do. And I say it that way because I really believed as recently as 2020 that this was going to turn around. That the Leafs would have to win at least a round. And they're overdue. Like what's going on with Edmonton right now, I kind of expected that for Toronto by now. And it just hasn't happened. So this upcoming season, I expect a lot of projections where people are going to have them being top 3 in the division, maybe even winning the division. And then come playoff time, I expect everybody to get cold feet. Regardless of what happens between now and then, next year we'll see everybody get cold feet. I don't think it would matter if they're first and who they face in the first round. People will say, yeah, looks like Toronto should win that, but I don't know. And it's the Montreal and Columbus series that I think make people antsy there, and then they haven't been able to get out of that first round. They haven't been able to shake that negative perception, and I'm hoping they do it soon, because honestly, it is an entertaining league when Toronto does well. I've said that with Montreal too. The league's less fun when Montreal is bad, and I say that as a Boston fan. It's much more fun when Montreal's good. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do the Leafs need to do? Who would need to go? If Sheldon Keefe was the one that people said, all right, it's the coach, then who do you bring in and what do you do? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And here's to hoping that next season we're not talking about them losing in the first round. And I know there's people who don't think I mean that, but I do. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.